Can you talk about some of the other ways of just kind of getting the toxins out of your organs and getting them out of your body?
What's really fascinating that we see is biohackers tend to have actually the worst detoxification because they're releasing the toxins during the sauna. They don't actually consume the right fats, phosphatidylcholine and phospholipids, to actually remove it from the body. And this whole kind of conception that people have had of using binders like charcoal and things like that to remove isn't healthy either. But what we know from observational case series that we've been seeing in anecdotal data from doctors for over 30 years is that phosphatidylcholine, it starts to help the process of removal. So if you're doing high dose, like 2 tablespoons of PC a day, supporting the gallbladder, supporting all the bile flow that you need and the function, you will see decreased levels of heavy metals, decreased levels of microplastics.
Jess, thanks for joining me today to talk about...
Honored to be here.
I've been so interested in this topic for a while now. Yeah. And quite honestly, there's not a lot of research or not a lot of like really good documentation around this in any of my medical books. So,
No, right? Not medical books. It would be just basic biology classes, right?
Yeah. And so, but I think that the translation from basic biology to medicine is kind of what you've pioneered over the last few years with BodyBio. And I'm really excited to bring this relatively kind of new topic in my mind, not in your mind, because you've been in it for 3 generations in your family, to my audience. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about phosphatidylcholine today.
Predominantly phosphatidylcholine, a little bit more about phospholipids in the cell membrane.
Phospholipids in general. Okay. So we're going to start at like literally basic 5th grade knowledge.
Easy.
Okay. What is the bilipid membrane? What is that?
It is a membrane that protects every single one of our cells. Imagine it is like a bubble. When little kids blow bubbles, it is that delicate. And it has both an inner layer and an outer layer. And they work with each other. The choline head groups are on the outside and the fatty acid tails are on the inside. And phosphatidylcholine is the predominant phospholipid. Over 50% of the outer layer is comprised of phosphatidylcholine. In there, you also have cholesterol, proteins, the electron transport chain, all of these beautiful things that happen on the membrane. But the most critical part of the membrane and the most predominant part of the membrane are phospholipids.
Perfect. A great explanation. So imagine a bubble, like, the kids blow. That outer layer with the super delicate layer of that bubble is basically every single one of our cells. And inside of there is our nucleus and our mitochondria and all the things we talk about. But all of that's encased in this membrane layer that has 2 components to it, the outside and the inside. And the outside is made up of what's called the inside and outside are made up of phospholipids. And phosphatidylcholine, you say, is the one that's on the outside of that predominantly. 50%.
It's the one that's almost protecting the cell the most.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of like the roof of the cell, if you will. But then you have all these other things kind of stuck in that membrane. Like you said, there's these proteins and there's other channels, receptors, everything's kind of stuck in that membrane, right? And that's how the cell interacts and communicates with the other cells in the outside environment.
Pulls off every single biochemical process in the body or between those cells. And that happens literally on the membrane. So our DNA is like a blueprint, Bruce Lipton's work, and it has this guide for what your health should be, but it doesn't actually have any actions. The actions are actually happening on that cellular membrane.
Wow. It's so incredible. The biology of it is incredible. And then, you think about this membrane, like it has to be made out of something. Like where do the components of this membrane come from?
Well, a lot of them are made endogenously in the body, and then they are fed exogenously by what we feed our body and the nutrients that we put in our body. So we're constantly making phospholipids in the body. The problem in today's world is that environmental toxins, viruses, chemicals, heavy metals, all of these things are literally attacking the lipids that make up our cell membrane and breaking them down so you have these holes and issues and almost this concept of a leaky cell, just like we have leaky gut. And it's at that point that those bad things are getting into the cell. They should be floating in the extracellular matrix, but they're actually getting into the cell through the lipid membrane, and they're attacking our nucleus, our mitochondria, and all these different things within the cell.
And this is why our cells are getting unhealthy, is because stuff that's supposed to be outside of a cell is going through these leaks in our cell.
And it's fascinating. The biochemical processes that happen in our body are unbelievable. I mean, you know that from working in it for so long. And when our cells are under stress, they actually start to pull in more cholesterol into a stress cell. So there's so many layers to the bad things that happened when our cell membrane is damaged.
Yeah. So can I ask you though, like you said, exogenous, we take in exogenous materials to make this lipid bilayer. What are we getting in our diet, for example, that helps us make this bilayer?
The most important thing is fats.
Fats, okay.
And none of us are eating enough fats. And this is not fats from avocado or olive oil. This is meats. It is raw dairy is a really important source. The best source of phospholipids comes from egg yolks. How many years were people eating egg whites for?
Right.
And we are devoid from putting in those exogenous outside our body, the nutrients in so that our body can make enough phospholipids.
Okay. And so what are some of the nutrients in like egg yolks and dairy and meats that people are missing out if you're not eating those?
It's the phospholipids.
It's the
You're actually
phospholipids.
getting them specifically from egg yolks, yeah.
So how do vegetarians get these?
You can get them from soy.
Okay.
Yeah, soy is a good source, although we know soy can, have issues being clean. But when you can have clean soy, that's a really great source. Seeds and nuts, another good source.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then choline is a part of this journey too?
It is, yeah. So the phospholipid, the molecule is a choline head group and two little fatty acid tails.
Right.
The choline head group will actually split off and add choline to the body when it's needed. So phosphatidylcholine is a fascinating molecule because when it's digested, it will go through the digestive tract into the bloodstream for cellular delivery because it's truly, when it's made liposomally, that's meaning it gets through to the bloodstream, going directly to the cells. When the body needs choline, it will actually break off and add choline when needed. It's
What does the body
fascinating.
need choline for?
Oh, energy, brain function. Yeah, I mean, it's the precursor to acetylcholine, which powers our brains.
Yeah. So not only are these molecules protecting our cell, but they're also being used for creating like acetylcholine and other other processes.
So many processes.
So
It's
versatile.
It's such a versatile nutrient. And I think we overlook it because we think we are making enough. And I think that the issue is now that the lipids are under attack and we are no longer making enough.
Yeah. So the requirement for the amount of this lipid has gone up due to toxins, basically.
To today's world.
Yeah. So can we talk about that? Like, how do toxins create damage in these? Or how's a toxin involved in this process?
From the way that my grandparents were researching this in the 1990s, the toxins are going in and they're breaking through the cell membrane. They're damaging the cell membrane. It depends on what that toxin is.
Yeah.
It could also be something like lime. Lime spirochetes will actually scavenge the choline head group and steal them so that they can survive. But then they're also damaging the cell membrane, which is particularly what we see in neurological Lyme, which I've experienced myself, so I can speak to it.
Yeah.
But it's viruses, bacteria, all of these things are breaking down the cell membrane. These toxicants are getting into the cell. They're embedding themselves in our nuclear and mitochondrial DNA, and they're altering our epigenetics.
Oh, that's crazy.
So let's say you have an Achilles heel, right?
Yep.
We all do. Mine's thyroid. My Achilles heel is thyroid. Lyme disease went in, damaged my cell membranes, got in there, started scavenging all the different organelles. Thyroid, Hashimoto's turned on earlier than maybe it was supposed to, whatever your Achilles heel is. And we're seeing that now, I think, more than ever.
And you're talking about all kinds of toxins, like toxins, even microplastics and BPA,
Microplastics are-
PFAS.
Benzene, toluene, these things that you're getting out through therapeutic plasma exchange. We're seeing these things and they are triggering epigenetic changes, causing cancers, causing so many different issues, neurological diseases, all of this.
Oh my gosh. And so basically the toxic environment we live in right now, which, I always say we have 150,000 toxins in our environment we did not have even just 6-7 generations ago, right? It's crazy how much toxic exposure is now a real Achilles heel, using your words, of our health, damaging our cell walls through this probably being the main mechanism.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's 40 trillion cells in a male. They estimate 32 trillion in a female. We're constantly making new cells. Cells are constantly dying. They need to pull from the resources that we have in our bodies, and we just don't have those resources. Environmental toxicants are lowering them. All of these things are kind of creating this mess that we've gotten into today.
Wow. So, I mean, then why not just eat more eggs and that solves a problem?
You can. They're also high in sphingomyelin, which can lead to cardiovascular issues.
Oh, I see.
So sphingomyelin is another phospholipid that you don't want too much of. It has a role in health, but you don't want too much of it. But my grandfather did eat a lot of raw egg yolks. Yeah, I do too. I eat probably about 2 raw egg yolks a day.
You eat 2 raw egg yolks a day.
I do.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're getting a good amount of egg in your diet, and
I am, yeah. And I still take 2 tablespoons of PC a day.
you still take 2 tablespoons of BC a day. So, what's the difference? Maybe we can kind of talk about you mentioned sphingomyelin, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between phosphatidylcholine, sphingomyelin, phosphatidylserine, which is another phospholipid? Like, there's all these phospholipids out there, and
Yeah.
why are some of them healthy and some not healthy?
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine will be made endogenously in the body when you take phosphatidylcholine. It will actually, there's a enzymatic conversion process from PC. So all the phosphatidylserine that's actually sold is enzymatically converted from PC,
Oh,
interestingly
okay.
enough.
That's
And most
interesting.
PC comes from soy lecithin. So it's a derivative of soy lecithin, and then you isolate the phospholipids.
Got it.
That's what makes ours so unique. My grandfather determined how to do it in 2002. When he did that, he knew that from soy you could also get phosphatidylethanolamine and phosphatidylinositol.
Okay.
These are critical for mitochondrial membranes and for cardiolipin production within the mitochondria. So these are some of the phospholipids that are on the inner membrane, but they're really important for some of the organelles within the cell.
So mitochondria are
Yeah.
similar. Their membrane is similar to our inner membrane.
Exactly. So they have a different membrane structure. And it's the same thing with sphingomyelin that plays certain roles in the body in different ways. But predominantly, you will hear mostly about phosphatidylserine because it's been linked to better brain function, and phosphatidylcholine because it is the most important phospholipid, and probably because I've been talking about it nonstop for the last 8 years.
Yeah, you've been talking a lot about this.
Yeah.
And so, I think still, though, that there's still a, I still think there's not enough information that people have heard. And so I'm so glad you came on the podcast and give us everything we need to know about phosphatidylcholine
Yeah,
today.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what % of humans are deficient in phosphatidylcholine?
Everyone. Everyone.
100% of people.
Look at how disease is occurring. Disease comes from our cell membrane. Diseases occur on the cell membrane. Look at 20-year-olds getting colon cancer. This isn't normal, right? And I think that we are this world. My grandfather had a wonderful quote when he wrote this book called the Detox book back in 2004. I think the FDA took it off the market.
Really?
Yeah, it was a little contentious. But it made this wonderful statement that our lipids are under attack in today's world. And this is back in the early 2000s. I can't even imagine what he would think about the world that we live in today.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I think that because of people like you and things that we're doing, we know now more than ever. He just saw this back in the 1990s.
Yeah. Was that prior to the low-fat movement or after the
I think it
low-fat?
was pretty much during it.
During the low-fat
Yeah,
movement.
I mean, the low-fat movement is probably like 1980s, 1990s.
Yes, you're
but I
right.
think it's still pervasive.
It
we
still
still
is.
see,
I know.
Even in baby formula, they're using like low-fat milk. I mean, it's
get
really
it.
crazy.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Yeah. It's crazy how, this whole low-fat thing, the effects of it have lasted
Exactly.
for now it was like 50 years.
Yeah.
And we're still seeing, they're still selling skim milk and they're still.
And the replacement of partially hydrogenated oils and chemically treated, these are not foods, these are not nutrients.
Right.
This is chemically made foods that were then introduced to the body. Then they cause all these issues because you're not feeding the body those whole nutrients that the body actually needs.
Right. And I think, all these, this low fat movement was created to prevent heart disease, right? And the kind of the side effect of, well, it didn't do that, number one, but number two, the side effect of it is we've depleted our body of the phospholipids that we need to create cell membranes.
And to regulate cholesterol.
And to regulate
HDL and LDL, all of these things. Lipid metabolism is, the backbone of lipid metabolism is the cell membrane. And I don't think we give it enough credit or enough attention. And I'd really love to start seeing some studies being done on that. They have done studies. I mean, at the research level, there's over 5,000 studies about phosphatidylcholine. But coming out with it to the mainstream, to the masses, I think is so critically important.
How does the cell wall and the cell membrane affect lipid metabolism? Can you take us through the science of that?
It's essentially the basis for it. It's the actions. It's performing the actions which are regulating all the different lipoproteins within the cell. So when something is under stress and under attack, it's going to start pulling more cholesterol actually into the cell and create more inflammation, cellular inflammation essentially. And building up all over the body. You have, arterial wall buildup of all of these different lipoproteins, and so many different health issues come from that. We did an amazing study this year with a mitochondrial research lab where they were using in a mouse study, they could actually see under stress conditions, cholesterol being pulled into these cells. And when they introduced BodyBio PC, it pulled the cholesterol out and started to balance everything out.
So interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, a lot of what I researched around with phosphatidylcholine was around detoxification, right? And so, I think we do a procedure called plasma exchange where we're just physically removing people's plasma, which contains the plasma portion of the toxins in your body. But when I talk about this procedure to our patients, I always say, yes, we're going to get rid of a lot of your toxins that's floating around your plasma. The amount that's floating on your plasma is only a fraction of what's inside of your organs, inside of your cells, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to start the repair process at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that your perception of this?
100%. I'm doing TPE next year.
Amazing.
Mainly because I've been through mold exposure, Lyme. I did an amazing test. It's no longer available. But when I looked at where the mold and the different bacteria and toluene and benzene were sitting, it was linked to early onset Parkinson's.
It is.
And so I do everything I can to optimize my health. One thing that I think is really important to this conversation is repairing and taking care of the cell membrane ahead of time and then afterwards as ongoing. So TPE is wonderful for that filtering out, for the cleansing out, but you need the reconstruction crew to go back in and replace and rebuild and repair so that our cells are more resilient to this stuff moving forward.
Absolutely. And so for me, whenever I talk about toxic exposure to my patients, I always say it's a 3-part program. Part 1 is reducing your exposure. We've got to get the exposure reduced, right? And there's many, many ways to do this. I actually have a guide, 52 weeks of decreasing your toxic exposure. I'll send it to you.
I'd love to see it.
It works really well. For the audience, you can find this on my website, drshah.com/toxins. And so detoxing your lifestyle is critical.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, don't even think about all the other stuff, right?
Yeah, I agree. Don't waste your money.
Exactly. Then the second piece of this is removing the toxins from your body.
Yep.
TPE is kind of like, it's like the big giant sledgehammer in doing that, but there's other ways of doing this too, right? So can you talk about some of the other ways of just kind of getting the toxins out of your organs and getting them out of your body?
And this is where it's really interesting because I just got back from this biohacking conference and we're talking about the cold plunges and the saunas and the peptides and all of these things. But what's really fascinating that we see is biohackers tend to have actually the worst detoxification.
I agree. Yeah.
Because they're releasing the toxins during the sauna. They don't actually consume the right fats, phosphatidylcholine and phospholipids, to actually remove it from the body. And this whole kind of conception that people have had of using binders like charcoal and things like that to remove isn't healthy either. But what we know from observational case series that we've been seeing in anecdotal data from doctors for over 30 years is that phosphatidylcholine goes in and removes this stuff. It starts to help the process of removal. So if you're doing high dose, like 2 tablespoons of PC a day, supporting the gallbladder, supporting all the bile flow that you need and the function. So I'll take it with TUDCA, with ox bile to really make sure I'm absorbing all of my fats. You will see decreased levels of heavy metals, decreased levels of microplastics. I just had somebody who did he did a 4-month test, 2 tablespoons of PC a day, microplastics test 4 times. He had a 67% reduction in micro and nanoplastics. It was incredible.
That's incredible.
And that was his only lifestyle intervention.
Which tests are you guys using for
He was using the
microplastic?
plastic tox for that.
Plastic tox,
Arrow Labs, which I like. I think that the best is we're not going to be doing brain biopsies on people to check for microplastics and nanoplastics levels. So we have to use what we can.
Right.
But I think that that's a critically important part of detoxification. We are not getting enough healthy fats to help remove a lot of these things from the body.
So interesting. So, okay, so you mentioned sauna is one way to kind of remove the toxins, but critical to do that with PC on board as well.
With PC, and if you want to really supercharge it, glutathione, exogenous glutathione can be really, really helpful, particularly for heavy metals as well.
Yeah, I agree. And then I share your sentiments about binders. They have so many side effects, and it's kind of a direct way of going after these through the gut, but really it's not doing anything at a cellular level.
Exactly.
And so, really focusing in on a cellular level of removing toxins using PC is going to be fantastic. There's also some, anecdotal series around getting the toxins out of your fat by using like radio frequency on the abdomen.
I like that.
Yep. And so that's another way of kind of mobilizing the
PFAS
toxins.
really live there.
Yes.
That's one of those
right.
things where they're really, that's a huge problem these days, are these forever chemicals, and how do we get them out? So how do we start to remove them from the fat, from the adipose tissue, and then actually excrete them from the body? I love that.
Yeah, so think about that radio frequency therapy, specifically in the abdominal area. I think we hold a lot of toxins in the fat around our abdomen, actually. Yep. So, and then sauna is another way. Anything else that you can think of?
No, I just make sure that when I'm going in the sauna, I'm doing it purposefully, right? I want to do it. I want to take the right nutrients before and after I'm in there to replenish the minerals, replenish the electrolytes, but make sure I'm getting, I'll usually do about a tablespoon of PC and 1 TUDCA before I get into the sauna.
Tell everyone what TUDCA is.
Oh, it's a bile acid. It's fascinating. It's been used in Chinese medicine for 300 years.
Forever.
It really helps to restore the bile flow and liver health when our liver is too kind of taxed from having to constantly process and detoxify all of these things in today's world. Your liver is constantly working to detoxify, and when we have too high of a toxic burden, it can really slow down. So TUDCA goes in and really helps provide the bile flow support so that the bile can process all the foods, all the toxins, and particularly the fat. So I actually use it for fat absorption and assimilation to make sure that I'm getting every little ounce of the PC that I'm taking. It also has fascinating roles as a chemical chaperone. So remember how we talked about how those chemicals are going into our nuclear and mitochondrial DNA?
Right.
It essentially shakes them off. These chemical chaperones, both butyrate and TUDCA, go in at the cellular level and start to shake that stuff out of our cells. And then PC goes in to help to remove it.
Okay, so this is an incredible detox protocol for everyone
This
that's
is
listening.
the original. So oftentimes you'll hear of it as the PK protocol or lipid replacement therapy, and that is essentially what this is.
Right. Okay. And just to highlight the liver and the bile, because we didn't really talk about that. Your liver is your main detoxification organ. Basically, it's your liver, kidney, and skin for the most part, in your gut. And your liver is doing a majority of the job.
Yeah.
And it eliminates those toxins through the bile, right? Which then comes out into your gut. The bile gets secreted from your liver, and then it goes into your intestines, and then you poop it out, basically.
Exactly.
But if the bile is not flowing, that's not happening.
You're constipated, you have gallstones, you have gallbladder issues. Eventually, you're going to get your gallbladder removed. And then you have a whole host of downstream issues from there, particularly for detoxification.
Right, exactly. And so the TUDCA helps the bile to flow.
Exactly.
And anything else that we can add to this protocol? TUDCA, phosphatidylcholine. How else can we?
For detoxification, I like to add in liposomal glutathione.
Okay.
I always add that in as well. And then I use butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid, as well as chemical chaperone.
What is the liposomal glutathione doing?
Liposomal glutathione is going in and really assisting. It's our master antioxidant. It's going to provide, in the right conditions, it's going to provide those antioxidants that we need for detoxifying all of these things. And I think so often for people like myself, if you have methylation issues, low glutathione production, MTHFR, COMT genes, you have all these different genetic issues, you have problems making enough glutathione. That's definitely been my weakness I've seen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have COMT and MTHFR, and they don't even know it. I think I read a statistic saying about 15% of people have MTHFR, actually.
I'm not surprised if it's more,
Right, absolutely. And so these are all really important pathways that are kind of disabled by these genetic I don't want to say disease. They're not diseases. They're just genetic abnormalities.
Exactly. Or genetic like precursors, right? It's part of your genetic blueprint.
Right. And so this is a way to kind of bypass those genes
and support them.
And support them. Exactly. So, okay. So then we're on this detox protocol. Right. And we're taking phosphatidylcholine. You said 2 tablespoons a day?
I mean, if you want to do the higher dose, So if you're going in for therapeutic plasma exchange and you're prepping your body, oftentimes doctors are using, do you ever use PCIVs?
Yes.
So sometimes they're using PCIVs. IVs are just going to be, it's actually polyunsaturated phosphatidylcholine. Or BodyBio PC is going to be a more balanced fatty acid profile and the more balanced phospholipid profile in an oral version. It's a little bit easier to get than the IVs, that's for sure. It's going to also help really support the repair. So IV PC really helps with detoxification. BodyBio PC orally really helps with the detoxification, but it also really goes in for that repair, which is critically important.
Critical.
So you're getting that balance and that normalization ahead of time by using PC. I would also use TUDCA, I think ahead of time is really important. Butyrate, glutathione, that's a really good detox prep.
Yep.
And then afterwards, after you've filtered all that out, you need the reconstruction crew to go back in and provide all the great nutrients. And that's actually when I would also add in balance oil, which is linoleic and alpha-linolenic. So adding in essential fatty acids that are really important for membrane fluidity as well.
Right. And where can we get that from?
BodyBio.
BodyBio,
We
you
make
that
a
as
cold
well.
pressed, very carefully treated. It's the opposite of oxidized seed oils. These are the healthy essential fatty acids that your cell needs to partner well with the phospholipids.
Yeah, and this is why I was excited to have you on, because we are creating these detox protocols now around our
Nice.
plasma exchange. And I really want to create the absolute best protocol because, I think that there's so many pieces of this that we've never had before. Now we can definitely do this. And where would the IV phosphatidylcholine fall into this? It's probably prior to the
I like to
plasma
do it prior.
exchange.
Yeah. So I think a prep. So for me personally, about 2-3 years ago, I think my 6-month-old was getting croup nonstop. And I said to my husband, there's mold in this house. We hired people to come find the mold. It was in our HVAC. I didn't experience many symptoms. I'm such a fine-tuned machine at this point that I know when I'm off. And my husband said, that's interesting you say that. I have floaters in my eyes. I wonder why. We go through life thinking that some of these symptoms are normal, that our babies are just getting croup because of their health. They're, it's, and I think we really need to take those symptoms seriously. So we got rid of the mold, but in sitting down with our doctor, that was the point in time in which we started to use IVPC because we really wanted to throw everything we could at it. You can do similar with oral.
Right.
It takes a long time. It takes about 9 months to a year of a high dose. Both of these things, as you know, they're pricey. They're investments in our health. For me, there's nothing more important than my health so that I can show up, so that I can be there for my family, so that I can be there for what we're doing in our mission. So we decided to throw out at both the IV protocol. So we did IV PC, glutathione, sodium phenylbutyrate, leucovorin, as part of lipid replacement therapy.
Sure.
I did those IVs 8 times. I've done IV PC before in the past. Just when my grandfather said, hey, you're looking a little sluggish, I'm going to give you some. And then along with it, I was doing the high dose PC at 2 tablespoons a day. And I continue at that high dose because I just truly believe that that's what makes me feel good. I noticed I was recently traveling in London when we first met, and I didn't have any PC with me. And about 5 days in, I was like, why do I just feel so off and brain fogged? I didn't have those fats, those essential nutrients that I needed. But I really think you throw IVs in there when you are dealing with a chronic illness, when you are dealing with a severe issue, a severe mitochondrial dysfunction, cell danger response, somebody who's really ill.
No, I agree. I think these things, IV versus oral, they kind of work hand in hand. And to your point, it is expensive to do the IV one.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have kind of the maintenance and also the ability to do oral prior to and after any type of detoxification
And it's
protocol.
that ongoing.
Yeah,
You can
and it's
take the oral
ongoing.
every day. I go in now for lipid replacement therapy about 2 times a year, 1 to 2 times a year, and then I just stay on my high dose oral.
Yeah. And then the high dose oral that you're on, do you take it in the morning, in the evening? How does it work?
Some people do find it to be stimulating for their brain. I don't. So I do morning after breakfast. I always like to take it with food, and then I'll do an evening after dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, but most people like to take their dose pretty much breakfast, lunch, because it can give them energy, really kind of turn their brain on.
Interesting. And so speaking of brain health too, I mean, another big piece of this that we need to talk about is the acetylcholine production. So can you talk about that? Why is that important and how does that mechanism work?
That I don't know exactly how that mechanism works, but what I do know is that phospholipids in general will provide the right building blocks for acetylcholine production in the brain, which is critical for energy, critical for brain function. So you'll often hear people who really hone in on brain health talking about acetylcholine, but there's nothing that we can take orally to introduce acetylcholine to the body. We wouldn't want to do that. There have been some things that have claimed to, like alpha GPC or acetylcholine. These are actually precursors to phosphatidylcholine production. So in my mind, why not just take phosphatidylcholine? I've never experimented with them, but the phospholipids will provide the right environment for acetylcholine to be introduced and increased.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people with brain fog, this could be a really great thing to try, first of all, is taking phosphatidylcholine and seeing if that helps to improve the brain fog, both through the cellular repair mechanism and through the enhanced acetylcholine production.
This is why I talk about it as the most critical nutrient,
Right.
is because it's not just going to help with your cardiovascular health, decrease your fatty liver, help your GI issues. 80% of the gastric mucosa is phosphatidylcholine. It's not just going to help with your brain fog or with your baby brain after you've had a child or with detoxification. It's all of these things.
80% of the gastric barrier is phosphatidylcholine?
Yep.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
That's interesting, yeah.
And so if we are not making enough, and talk about, postmenopausal women, the decrease in estrogen decreases that PEMT enzyme, which is actually making phosphatidylcholine.
Oh, okay.
Even more so they need it. So as we age, our ability to synthesize it from foods decreases. Babies are born with a ton of PC and very little sphingomyelin. And that starts to reverse as we get older.
Got it. Yeah, we can't make enough, and we need a lot more than we used to because of the toxic exposure.
100%.
So it's going to need to be supplemented in some form.
I think so. People often ask me, like, for a healthy person, what's their dose? And I say they're not healthy. I hate to be like, and I never want to leave with fear, because for me, it's all about resilience and how we make our body stronger.
Yes.
But who is healthy these days?
Exactly.
And we don't know what's going on underneath our skin in the front. And so many people say, oh, well, she was fine, and then she got diagnosed with breast cancer. Come on, we know that's been developing for 10, 15 years before that.
Yeah. 90% of Americans have some level of metabolic disease right now. And so there's a big role phosphatidylcholine plays in metabolic disease as well, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. It even helps with blood sugar regulation, which is why I take these healthy fats and consume them after a meal, because it will also help stabilize blood sugar.
Yeah. And so for people that are having, trouble stabilizing their blood sugar, this
Everybody,
could be,
if it's 90%.
Exactly, 90% of people, right? Exactly. This could be a potential great additive to that whole
For sure.
journey of stabilizing your blood sugar as well. And then, do you need to be on this forever? I mean, talk about the how long should you take phosphatidylcholine?
I mean, I don't want to sound like a salesperson, because I'm truly not. I mean, our mission, my grandfather's mission, my grandfather really felt when he got my husband and I involved in the business.
Yeah.
He sat down with us and said, PC needs to be in the hand of every single person in the world. He actually thought we had to turn it into a drug, and the doctors, allopathic doctors, would then prescribe it to their patients. And my husband said, I don't think so. We have this time more now than ever where people are exploring their health. People are getting to the root cause of their issues. They're taking their health into their own hands.
Right.
And so I hate to be the person to say we all need it, but we do.
It's kind of like vitamin D. Like,
It is.
You just can't. Most people are deficient in vitamin D. There has to be some way to get it into your system. It's such a critical nutrient.
Yeah.
I feel like this is probably another one of those vitamin D stories where we're just not going to make enough.
No.
And we need to think about how do we supplement this in a form and in a way that supports our detox pathways, acetylcholine production, our gastric barrier. There's so many different solutions here that come from this. But unfortunately, unlike vitamin D, there's no real way to measure your level of PC.
Not yet. Yeah. We are working on it. I think one day we'll figure it out. Right now, we do a really interesting test that looks at the red blood cell fatty acid composition.
Okay.
So this is looking at the membrane fluidity and structure and the buildup of some of these. When we hear about vegetable oils and seed oils, we're thinking about renegade fats, very long chain fats, these fats that build up and damage our cells, cause our cells to look like shriveled raisins instead of grapes, essentially. And we see consistently that people have really odd levels, particularly those who have been taking fish oil for a very long time, have suppressed levels of omega-6, which is critically important for certain pathways in the body and the essential fatty acid pathway. But we are trying to figure out a way to really measure, first for practitioners, we'll introduce it to a practitioner audience, and then direct to consumer so that they can understand. But it's a complex process, right? There's cells everywhere. The cells in the body are different compositions of phospholipids. So how you test may not be indicative of, your circulating plasma levels, but how are the cells in the brain or the cells in the liver doing?
Right. It's like any blood test. What people have to remember, you're really inferring data from what's in your plasma, what's going on in your white blood cells and your red blood cells and your platelets, because that's all that's in your bloodstream. You don't have a heart cell in your bloodstream.
Exactly.
You don't have a brain cell in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So you're really inferring from what's in your blood to what's going on in the rest of the body.
And good doctors have to use that information along with the symptoms, along with all these other tests that you do to put together the full picture and say, okay, this is how we're going to tackle these issues.
Yeah, exactly. How is this product also beneficial for skin health?
I mean, skin's our largest organ. What are our organs made of? Cells.
Right.
So, people constantly comment, you're 42 years old. What are you doing? What are you taking? I don't use toxins. I don't inject myself with things. Our skin is reflective of how healthy our cells are. And so when you give the cells the right food, essential fatty acids and phospholipids, they will appear more plump and youthful. And so I think these are critical. I mean, it sounds like snake oil, doesn't it? It sounds like it's a jack of all trades. It's doing everything in the body.
Right.
But we talk about cellular health these days in biohacking, and we talk about peptides and NAD and these mitochondrial optimizers. And I think it's just so much more simple. I think when we provide the body with the right essential nutrients, the body looks and feels good.
Yeah, and I think the critical reason we have so much disease right now, there's two, is we don't have enough of the nutrients that we need, and we're giving we're getting too much toxic exposure in our day-to-day. And
100%.
Those two are so out of balance right now. And we just get a little bit more balance, our body wants to be in a natural state of health.
100%.
It's going to fix everything on its own.
Exactly.
We can create that balance for it.
Exactly, I agree. And for those who have the toxin exposure, and when they can, remove it. For me, I'm mainly doing TPE for Lyme.
Right.
I want to get rid of these spirochetes that keep coming back whenever there's periods of stress or, a viral exposure. And so doing everything I can to really optimize and make myself the most resilient, I think is critically important.
Absolutely. You mentioned Lyme, you mentioned mold. Mold has a lot of different toxins. And so those toxins, like for your kids, can result in symptoms. And some people are resistant to symptoms like you are. But just because you're resistant to symptoms doesn't mean you shouldn't check for mold and you shouldn't eliminate the mold.
Doesn't mean it's not affecting your epigenetics either.
And that is very true. Yeah. And so I think there's many toxins besides just the ones we're talking about here that are out there. And so I think another kind of global thought to have is we should reduce our level of exposure to all the toxins, but also always be mitigating against the damage of it, right?
Always. Yeah. I think that gives you a true element of success. I think it gives you an action plan for how you can go through today's world feeling really good, not being scared, not being fearful. It's the avoidance piece. It's the making sure you're doing everything that you can in a healthy way, right? Yeah. Don't stress your system out. In a healthy way to avoid these things, and then adding in the supports so that we can live a more resilient life.
Exactly. So you're the toxin expert. And
I wouldn't say I'm a toxin expert. I like to be a PC expert.
A PC expert.
Healthy fat expert.
Yes, healthy fat expert. What are some other pieces of advice you can give just globally around getting enough healthy fats and looking for healthy fats in your day-to-day diet?
I think don't be afraid of fats. Consume soy, consume meats, consume nuts. I make seed creams, so I'll take seeds, I'll soak them in electrolytes, a little bit of electrolytes in water for 24 hours. Then I drain them and I grind it up into like a paste. I'll add that into my smoothies. Those are beautiful essential fatty acids.
Yeah.
Really healthy fats and critical for women. The whole concept of seed cycling is essentially that. So getting in those right fats so that our hormones can be balanced are really important. I eat eggs every day. I consume dairy. I think in today's world, we're not feeling good. The first place we go is like, is there a food issue?
Yes.
Is there a food intolerance, a food allergy? And then all of a sudden we're cutting out dairy. We're cutting out, gluten's a whole other issue. Yeah. But in the event that we're cutting out some of our protein sources, we need this protein to make and synthesize PC in the body.
Right. And so those are the healthy fats, but there's also unhealthy fats that we should talk about. Yeah. And so, you mentioned seed oils. I think there's a lot of controversy around seed oils that people talk about in social media about there's no evidence that you get more inflammation from the seed oils. But I think the story is much bigger than inflammation, right?
What they do is they drive these issues at the level of the cell membrane. They drive these red blood cell fatty acid issues, and they build up these abnormal proteins and lipids and renegade fats, and those cause inflammation. And so they're causing this cellular stress when you're consuming these oxidized oils. Right. The point and the interesting thing is PC and healthy essential fatty acids will go in and replace the oxidized lipids in the cell, which helps to really make them healthier. But when you consume fried foods and vegetable oils and oils that are not carefully treated, this inflammation is going to happen. I think that the way people read research is fascinating.
Yeah.
And the way, is particularly if they're not a clinician. So I get to speak all day to clinicians like yourself who see it in real life and see how these seed oils are driving problems.
Yeah.
So I think the people who argue on the other side are looking at it from the lens of, sure, these are essential fatty acids and they're really important. It's all about how these things are treated.
Yeah.
It's about how they are, if they're oxidized or not, essentially.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But research is one of those places where it's really tough to look at the two sides of this story and have a nuanced discussion. I've seen it before. People just get so heated about it.
Yeah.
And the reality is we're eating oxidized oils. These are affecting our cells. It's causing cellular inflammation. You can go in and fix it, but you need to avoid, and you need to add in the good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a couple of social media influencers I'm thinking of right now that shout from the rooftops about seed oils being safe and they're fine.
Yeah.
And they're talking about studies that, maybe there are some studies that show that a particular oil does not cause more inflammation, but they're missing all the nuance before and after.
100%.
Right.
We look at it with such a myopic view, I think.
Yeah.
And we look at a headline and we pull that headline and we pull the excerpt from the abstract. And they use it in social media, particularly for these hooks and really to get people, into it. But when you see it as a clinician and you really look at the nuance that it's causing within our health, it's a very different
I
picture.
can't tell you the number of patients I've seen that we cut seed oils out and their health dramatically changes.
Yeah.
And you see it in their biomarkers, you'll see it in the way they feel. It's one of those kind of, to me, it's a fundamental of diet is to just cut out anything ultra processed, anything that we make in a factory.
100%. And I think that we look, you can't even understand it, but when you look at like a heavily processed potato chip that's soaked in an oxidized vegetable oil, and then you're consuming that, it's essentially breaking down your cell membrane.
Yeah.
There are, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to essential fatty acids, because essential fatty acids are still going to come from flaxseed oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. And you can get them in the right sources. So we make one, Udo's makes, Barlean's makes some that you've probably seen in places like Whole Foods for 25 years.
Yep.
These are essential fatty acids that are really good for our bodies. So eating those in moderation, I think, is really helpful too.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, a lot of new information and great information. So if you could give the audience just 3 pieces of advice around PC and what to do next, what are those?
I think just, if you feel that you are somebody who is healthy, just start on a 2 capsule a day dose. It's either 2 soft gels or half a teaspoon a day. See how you feel. Give it a try. And I think stick with it for 3 to 6 months. Then you can stop and see how you feel. And I think you'll notice a real difference.
Agreed.
If you're someone who is dealing with chronic stress, health issues, or chronic illness, you're going to want a higher dose. I think that there's no harm in loading the body with a higher dose at first and then tapering back down to a maintenance dose.
Okay.
But I just encourage people to give it a try. People are so willing to try every health fad and trend that's out there. And this is something that's not sexy. It's, a simple biological nutrient that is so critical for our bodies. And if you've kind of tried everything, or if you're just even starting your health journey and you're just dipping your toes in, I think it's the best place to start.
I love it. I love it. Where can people find some of this stuff?
BodyBio.com. We sell internationally, and you can, all of our socials, we are there. It's a true family business. My brother is the head of customer service.
Oh,
my
he is? I didn't know
brother-in-law's
that.
involved. My sister's involved. Everybody's involved in the business,
Amazing.
running it with my husband and I.
Yeah.
And so you'll get real humans actually taking your issue and what you're experiencing into consideration and helping you through it. So, yeah.
I love it that you guys have been working on this for 3 generations now, and it comes from a real biochemistry that your grandfather did.
It really does. He had a true passion for helping people because he experienced it himself. So he had heavy metal toxicity. It was chronic fatigue diagnosis. He went to the ends of the earth to figure out why. What's the root cause of this and how do I fix it? And through that, he developed BodyBio.
I love it. And Jess, do you have social media as well? That
I
people
do,
can
yes.
Get
At
educated
Jess
more on
Kane.
this?
Yeah, so Kane is my last name. Now I'm Berman. I just kind of throw all the names out there. But you can find me at Jess Kane on social handles.
Right. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.